Thank you, Ms. Shashi. As we all are aware, Dr. Joe Tondo is an anthropologist with a rich and diverse background in mission work, from the Philippines Catholic lay missions to assignments across the Philippines and Africa. She has worn many hats. She's been a faculty member at the Jesuit-run East Asian Pastoral Institute, an associate professor at De La Salle University, and has even served as dean, vice president, and officer in charge at a government university before retiring. With her deep insights into hierarchy and power, Dr. Jo is the perfect person to guide us on our important topic today, which is an understanding of hierarchy and power for Good Shepherd educators. She's here with us today, but to avoid any tech glitches, her speech has been pre-recorded. Without further ado, let's give Dr. Jo Tondo a very, very warm welcome. Over to Dr. Jo's video.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for inviting me for this smart session of the Good Shepherd Educators um, formation. Is it formation? And continuing formation. So let me start by telling you that everyone will be provided a copy in PDF file of this session. So you just need to be attentive to what is being flashed on your screens and to listen for the explanation. We begin by the Mentimeter exercise, which Sashi will facilitate. What can you remember from the session of power and hierarchy in Pattaya? Looking back, what are your insights as institutional leaders from the session? You need to put in your responses to the question through the Mentimeter link that will be provided by Sashi.
I'm just going to open up the Mentimeter to see the responses. And here we are, started receiving some responses. Looking back on the power and hierarchy session, guide not to overpower. Overpower. Power is energy and passion. Here are some responses which are coming in. Let me check if there is some response coming in on chat as well. Power with and transformation. Thank you. Thank you. Power over and power with. Power over and power under. Collaborate and the great, get the ideas from all. Transformation, justice at the core of being. Power over and power with. We seem to be getting a lot of power over and power with, as I recall. Power over and power with. Let me see if there are any more responses coming in. Justice, the garment we wear, we see that. Power over and power with. Okay, so that is the response that we have received so far. I'm going to close here.
By Sashi. Before transformation can happen, leaders need to be aware of the context of educational institutions. And it is this: there are power differentials in every institution, including where you are. Because almost all institutions are enmeshed in the patriarchal, liberal capitalist systems. These power differentials begins in the hiring process that are followed by most institutions. So as you can see from the screen, there is tension between the decision making of hiring new employees, between ownership and merit. And there's also tension between competence and qualifications. So in that sense, when we talk about justice, and we note that there are power differentials from the very beginning of looking for your staff, and even including your own existence within the institutions, then you need to be aware of how you can change it as leaders. Okay, let me just start by saying that justice most of the time remain elusive despite our best efforts as leaders. Organization structures in both public and private spheres lean towards vested interests, especially those who have control over resources. The quality and effectiveness and qualifications of leaders and staff of GS educational institutions are rooted in the power dynamics of the structures in the hiring process. Owners enjoy the right to choose and evaluate leaders and staff. Sisters chosen by the Good Shepherd educational institutions, while fulfilling the statutory requirements of the Department of Education in each area, are assigned to their leadership post by the congregation, while lay people are evaluated by hiring committees assembled by the owners, which means sisters will be part of this evaluation process. Also, the sisters appointed by the congregation are most of the time automatically confirmed, while lay leaders and staff go through the process of probation and become temporary staff before being confirmed as permanent staff. So in that sense, sisters or leaders are more secure in their position than the laity. Hiring of lay educators is competitive and evaluative, while religious sisters are assigned in terms of educational qualifications by the congregation and therefore assured of job security. Ownership, therefore, in this instance and in most cases, has the potential or have the potential of entitlement. And leaders who are sisters need to be aware of your context. You need to be aware of your context that you are in a position to be entitled. It doesn't mean you're going to be entitled, no? That you would be entitled or behave entitled. What I'm saying is that you are in a position as owners towards entitlement. Whether you behave as an entitled leader or not is up to you. But know this, that between you and the laity who are employed by the congregation that you are, that have been, the power that assigned you to the school puts you in a little bit of, I would say, sensitive spot as a leader. Because then it will test your moral brevity. What I'm saying is this, no? That there's more challenge to you to be faithful in terms of principles to justice than some leaders in other institutions are. Okay. And having said that, we go back to the challenge of all Christians. And by the way, all principal leaders. And we have to be, regardless of this context of power differentials, we have to behave as true leaders, gearing our institutions towards the transformation we visualize for the school or the university we are in. Power, hierarchy, and leadership are intertwined concepts. Leaders will leverage power within a hierarchical structure to influence and guide others towards achieving organizational and institutional goals. It is important to be aware that as leaders, you are part of a hierarchy of power, and you are located in almost all cases at the top of this hierarchy. You have what we call, in quotation mark, the command responsibility. Anything that happens at the bottom can be attributed to you. As an example, take note of the resignation of the Boeing, company. He had nothing to do with the screws on the plane. He had nothing to do with all the malfunctions of Boeing. But when things happened, he had to step down. Why? Because he had the command responsibility. Whatever happens to your school, regardless of whether this was done by a student, by a faculty, by anyone, you may not be directly responsible, but you have the command responsibility. And therefore, definitely, you also have the power to do something about what happens at the bottom. There are factors that influence real power dynamics. Let me just state this slowly, okay? People with history of the organization. It helps when you have long-standing staff and employees, but you have to note that these employees and this staff often accumulate informal power by their longevity. You see this in the way they reference themselves. My students, my school, my subject. For the language teachers here, I think we have language educators here, in terms of possessive pronouns, the way we refer. That comes with comfortability because we have been in that kind of position for a long time. Even me, as a teacher, I would refer to some batches of my students, and my colleagues. There's always that important factor of longevity within a certain position. We also are able to nurture personal relationships. Some of your staff, some of your employees may have friendships and alliances that can override formal hierarchies. Like, for example, if there is in the one institution, in my previous school, there are some faculty that can override certain, decision-making processes in the faculty meetings, mainly because they have formed alliances and friendships, and they will not budge. Like, for example, one policy may be negatively affecting their friend, they will not vote for that policy. Okay, so that's the way we do things, and we need to be aware of that as leaders. So the moment this person votes for something, you know that all the others will be voting the same way. There are staff and employees with unique expertise, and they gain influence, among others. Even in the classrooms, I remember when I was a student, we have some people we refer to as the walking encyclopedias of the school. because it is their forte to be able to memorize certain things. These people gain specialized power. Then the person who has access to resources definitely will be in a position to influence others. So person who control over budgets, information, or key contacts elevates one's power. So if you're a person who has to work, for example, towards your budget approval, then you will definitely try to be friendly with this person because this person has access. But more importantly, for the owners, no, for those people assigned by the owners, definitely they have more power because they have access to the resources of ownership, no. They can definitely influence the owners to provide the resources. Lastly, personality and charisma. Okay, natural leaders can inspire and direct others in terms of what happened? In terms of pursuing or pushing their goals. Now, in certain cultures, like for example, Asia, okay, personality and charisma works a lot. Personality and charisma coupled with personal relationships, coupled with history of the organization, probably trumps specialized knowledge, no? Mainly because Asians tend to be persuadable by people who are nice to them, and especially if the person is charming, no? So we need to be aware of this. I am not saying that you should be a charming leader. I'm just saying that it is important to know that you have this at your disposal. You can be more charming in certain occasions than others. So there are different types of power that we can also employ in terms of dealing with our institutions. So one is legitimate power. This stems from the leader's formal position or title within the organization, giving them authority to make decisions and give directives. We need to recognize that legitimate power helps to respect hierarchical lines and formal responsibilities. Yes, you can be friendly, but with certain limitations. We cannot be too friendly. That blurs the line of your legitimate power now. Coercive power. We can also have in our means some form of coercive power. This is the ability to influence through threats or punishment, often used to enforce compliance. Identifying this type of power helps organizations manage conflict and power struggles. Now, let me be very clear now. If you have policies, if you have rules, if it does not have coercive power, then there's no use for such policies and rules. Non-compliance needs to have consequence or consequences. If there are no consequences, then it's better to do away with all the rules and all the processes and everything, no? So therefore, coercive power has its use. You cannot have an institution wherein you are giving directions and everybody agrees on certain things and you have people not complying. If they do not comply, there has got to be some consequences that will make them remember that there are certain things that are what we call non-negotiable, okay? Especially when it comes to deadlines, especially when it comes to giving reports, etc., etc. Referent power. This is based on charisma, personal attractiveness, which we have mentioned before, and the ability to inspire others to follow. This is based on personal appeal. Natural leaders can inspire and direct others regardless of their title. Now, charisma is natural. You either have it or you don't have it. But you can actually strive to be nice. No? You can strive to be pleasant. And you can develop certain pleasant dispositions when you're dealing with people. Expert power. This comes from specialized knowledge, skills, or expertise that others value. And identifying this power helps organizations value knowledge and skills. You need to have some form of expertise in your position. Otherwise, people will notice and you might become what we call a lame duck, leader. Reward power. This is the ability to influence through offering rewards or incentives. Understanding this power helps navigate positive behaviors. This is not bribery, completely different, no? You just encourage them to do certain things by making sure that your organizations or institutions offer adequate rewards for those who try their best to do better than what is expected. No, I would repeat that. You don't give rewards for them to just do their jobs. You give rewards when they do more than what is expected. In the government here in the Philippines, they call this the performance-based bonus. No? That is the incentive for people who do their work or institutions who do beyond what is required. Informational power. This arises from possessing information that others need or desire. Knowledge on existing resources, material, human, technology, networks, ideas, etc. There is always some form of this in terms of, your staff. No? That there will always be somebody who has all the informations needed. And you need to be able to identify who they are. Charismatic power. Charisma is the nature of attractiveness or charm that compels others to follow someone. Charismatic power inspires positivity and joyful feelings in others. No? The best examples, I think, are the founders of certain institutions. And in terms of the Good Shepherd educational system and Good Shepherd sisters themselves, it would be Saint Mary Euphrasia. That is her charismatic power. To be able to have her legacy exist up till now is proof that she has charismatic power. Now, we do that in terms of following that power by assigning, sisters in different educational institutions in the present that would best, reflect the charismatic power of Saint Mary Euphrasia. And each sister strives to be that, to be the witness of this charismatic power of the foundress in their present day institutions. Moral power. Moral leaders live by a principle that others can observe and decide to follow. A leader with moral power inspires action based on their beliefs and behavior. I don't think I have to explain this very well. For the Muslims, you have your own, standard of morality that is congruent with the righteousness of every person within the religious, organization. In the same way for Buddhists, for Christians, and we have the models, Jesus Christ for Christian, Muhammad for Muslims, Buddha for Buddhists, and of course, in terms of the Hindu, they're gods, their deities. Now, educators with two or more types of power have a better leverage as leaders. But may I emphasize that the foundation that should always be within one leader would be moral power. Without it, your organizations will be lost. Without it, you as a person will also be lost. You have to stay grounded in moral power. Then all the others can work towards that. Like, for example, if you have moral power and you have charismatic power, you are well on a way to being an effective leader. But if you include, legitimate power that you are actually legitimately assigned in an institution, then all these three play into the transformation of the institution if you are the leader. Now, if you combine that with expertise, even more, the potential for success in terms of transformation increases as you accumulate more power in terms of all the things that I have referred to. Now, how power and hierarchy affects leadership? You have formal authority, which means that within the hierarchical structure, you have more power in terms of the legality of certain things. No? So hierarchical structure provide a framework for formal authority where leaders at higher levels have more power and influence than those at the lower levels. And therefore, even if they talk, you have actually the authority to push certain things regardless of the opinions of others. You have the authority in terms of decision making. Anyone who has power can actually influence decision making. Hierarchical structures can influence decision making processes as leaders at the top often have the final say. And in terms of communication, hierarchical structures can impact communication flow as information may be filtered or delayed as it moves up and down the chain of command. Now, when we communicate, our authority, let me just go back to the previous one, we have formal authority that is communicated by our investiture within the organization or the institution. And therefore, this affects decision-making and communication. So, when we communicate, it is important to note that as leaders with authority, going back, formal authority, can affect, those below us with more impact than others. The meaning and effect of message depends on the hierarchy of power and status of sender and receiver. So, if there is a meeting and people are discussing, if the leader talks first, and I'm pretty sure this is true in most Asian contexts, when the leader expresses his or her opinion, all the others go quiet already. The discussion is finished because they think that they have to adhere to the decision and the opinion of the leader. When your people are empowered enough to listen to their own heart, when they're able to express their opinion despite having you express your own, which is not the same as theirs. No? An example, there was a meeting in one parish wherein I was there, and there was a discussion, and the priest spoke. I think he was the third speaker, and everyone grew quiet for a while, not knowing where to go because it was completely different from the first two opinions given. And the facilitator has been a member of the BEC, Basic Ecclesial Community, or BCC, for a while. But he was very much empowered by what he said next. He told his peers, well, thank you, Father, for your opinion. Father has expressed his opinion, and I think there are other people here who have other opinions. So that is empowerment, when people can speak out despite the leader having spoken. But note, in the Asian context, this may not be true. Some people are totally intimidated by the power of the leader. So, In terms of how power and hierarchy affects leadership, another one would be employee empowerment. No? Rigid hierarchies can sometimes stifle employee empowerment and innovation, as individuals may feel less able to contribute their ideas or take initiative. So you need to be able to empower your staff. Flexibility. A flexible leadership style can help mitigate the negative effects of rigid hierarchy by encouraging feedback and employee input. Depending on the gravity of the concern, leaders need to have the competence, skill in terms of choosing the appropriate, applicable style of decision making within the organization. So, when we say in terms of leadership and decision making, there is this top-down approach, which we all know. I think we have experienced this. It's power over. It allows for quick decisions driven by leaders with a broad view of the organization, but it can lead to a lack of stakeholder alignment and decisions made without considering full implications. Now, the next one is bottom-up. It's neither power over or power with. It allows for more input from employees, leading to potentially more informed decisions. Can be slow and inefficient due to involvement of many people. Decisions made might not align with the organization's overall views. I wrote some notes here. This is a good one because you are actually consulting people from the bottom. But on the negative side, some leaders may hide their lack of competency, skills, creativity in a bottom-up style of decision-making. Consultation is always good, but decisions need to be made in terms of timeliness, and effectivity. Most leaders who are insecure about their expertise and about their competence may result in what we call forever consultation. You go to one person, consult this person, then you go to another person and consult another person. Then, before you know it, you have consulted so many people and you still haven't made any decision. Then, you probably will call a meeting. Everybody's discussing, but you cannot direct the group to make a decision, mainly because you yourself don't know what the decision that will benefit the organization the most is. Now, let's go to the middle ground, power with. No? This allows for input from both top and bottom, leading to the more informed and aligned decisions. Balancing the input from varied stakeholders can be challenging and potential decisions becoming less focused. Now, there is also a danger on the negative side because when you try to take the middle ground, leaders often cave into the demands of vested interests. And the sound of the voices of those with less power becomes fainter. Now, when they go to the middle ground and try to listen to both sides. So the leader must be very, very clear. Now, what do you really want? What is the principle of justice that should be followed? What is the principle of truth that must be followed in certain instances that are non-negotiable? No? And therefore, the decision should be based on certain things that are clear and principled. Power can be used to empower others through joyful mentoring. Now, the problem with this world is this. And I've discussed this with Teresa. No? Bad people are so good in influencing others to be bad like them, no? In terms of corruption, in terms of the desire for power, etc. Why? Because the consequences and the results are attractive. Nothing, you get more, they offer wealth and money and power, fame to people. And so people follow them. What is lacking is that good people, good leaders in educational institutions often miss out on mentoring. We need to mentor people the way rabbis, mentor their disciples. The way, the Muslim schools, I have seen them that they have their mentoring, they also have their religious teachers, mentoring others. Buddhists have their temples wherein they offer, mentoring to their followers. Even in social media, you see, Buddhist meditations, exploding in social media sometimes. But important point is you need to mentor somebody, not only for succession, but for influence towards the wider society. So there are 4 steps for mentors towards a happy and productive school culture. One is beliefs in a strengths-based approach. The message is not one of competition or improving perceived deficits, but developing strengths. The emphasis is on becoming the best version of yourself that you can imagine. You need to be able to be aware of your strengths. 2, develop an attitude of gratitude. Am I grateful enough for what I have, for what I am? Even before what I have is, I am grateful enough for what I am. So how do we develop gratitude? So there are gratitude exercises. Try to think in terms of, I am grateful for this session. I get to see other people and I get to listen to new ideas. What would make today great? Okay. It would make, today will be great if, for example, there are good results. Like, for example, for our daily affirmation, I am good, I am going to get better, and I'm going to be the best. So that's one affirmation mantra. Every afternoon or evening, the prompts are 3 amazing things that happened today are 1, 2, 3. Okay? So, how could I have made today even better? Try to think of this, for your own development in terms of gratitude. Create and nurture a culture of collaboration. Leadership is about building teams. It is about trusting your faculty in their expertise and decision making. Number 4, establish and foster positive relationships. Successful school leaders form, maintain, and grow relationships with each participant in the community. As leader educators, the best and most effective transformational quality as mentors we can offer is joy. It is because a joyful leadership is strength-based. A joyful leadership has an attitude of gratitude, and a joyful leadership creates a culture of collaboration, and it nurtures positive relationships. For Christians, for the Christians in the group, Paul in Ephesians 4:4 instructs the community in Ephesus, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. There's even a song about this, referring to the joy exuded among Christian communities in 1 Peter 1:22-23, it is written, see how they love each other. So, you can only mentor someone if it is joyful to be with you. Otherwise, people will avoid you. So, try to be joyful. Try to be always positive so that people are attracted to the joyfulness and positive energy that you exude. Otherwise, even if you want to mentor, no one will want to be mentored by you. And I say this in a fun manner because it is truly, truly the fun people that people want to be within an arm's distance. Okay? Leadership is not about who you are, but who you inspire to be. It is not about us. It is the others that we will be inspiring. It is, being the president of as university, being the dean, being the principal, being the decision maker in the congregation, is not about you. It is about what you can do, who you can inspire in your position as leaders. Leadership and power in an educational organization, institution, isn't just about position. It is about influence and the ability to effect change, and may I say, effect change joyfully towards a more just and humane school and university community. Thank you.